Hey everyone, Jay Whitner here with Space Headlines. We do a quick recap on what's going on in space each week. And today we're going to be talking about the fourth week of March 2019. Our first item comes from Germany. The German government and the German Space Agency is studying a new reusable rocket concept. It's a partial reusable, and it pertains to the first stage. Hopefully you can tell a little bit from this graphic, but the first stage is a glider kind of thing. So after it separates from the second stage, it goes into glide mode, and then an aircraft rendezvous with it as it is gliding and attaches a tow cable to the thing and brings it back to the launch site. This is a 3-year study that they've just begun, funded at $3 million, so $1 million a year. Hopefully they will come up with some novel approaches that work for them. Blue Origin was in the news. They have, as you can see from this image, a huge rocket factory that they've recently built at Kennedy Space Center. The news is they're going to double, basically, their rocket factory facilities down there. They're taking another 90 acres, they're building more buildings, and this shows really a big commitment by Blue Origin to Florida as a launch site and to the New Glenn. And in case you're not familiar with the New Glenn, it's a very large, capable rocket, capable of taking roughly 100,000-pound payloads into LEO, and it's scheduled to have its first flight in 2021. Made in Space is the leading company in 3D printing in the space environment, and they've been making things on the International Space Station for a while. One of their newer projects is called Archinaut, which is basically a giant 3D printer that's not contained in anything. So visualize a 3D printer that you might have in your garage or something. There's usually a chamber within which all the 3D printing happens. So imagine the chamber wasn't there. So it's just operating in space in the microgravity environment and vacuum with all the temperature swings and make stuff like that. So the idea is to make very large structures in space very affordably. The news was it did really well in testing in vacuum and with the appropriate temperatures. And the testing focused on some connecting of different things together and joining things together, and everything went very well. Perhaps the big story of the week was that Vice President Pence made a big announcement that tells NASA that the White House, the Space Council, and the Vice President, they want NASA to put people on the moon by 2024. This represents a significant acceleration because the former schedule had been to put astronauts on the moon about 9 years from now. So this truncates that down to a 5-year time frame, which will be very, very challenging. So in addition to the timing, they specified a target. The target for this mission would be to put astronauts in at or near the south pole of the moon. The reason for this is scientists have determined that there's very large amounts of ice in that area, and ice can be converted into water, into rocket propellants, and it can be used for a vast variety of things. So this is encouraging to see the government's attention being paid to this. We've gotten some mixed reviews from NASA about looking at alternative means to do this, or conversely, we've heard that we have to have the SLS in its full configuration to be able to do this. So NASA is still grappling with how they can meet this new timeline. Elon Musk weighed in on this with his SpaceX Starship concept. Elon basically is saying that he could land astronauts on the moon by 2024 using the Starship. And if you look at the announcements and the timetables that have been announced so far by SpaceX, you would see that they're targeting 2023 for a tourist flight that would fly around the moon without landing, carrying a bunch of tourists, half a dozen artists or something. So if they're able to do that successfully in 2023, it seems to me at least plausible that they could land astronauts on the moon in 2024. So exciting news both from NASA and from Elon. The Space Settlement Act has been introduced again in the Senate. This was attempted last year and ran into some problems in the House. The fundamental notion here is that we need regulatory reform and that it would be good to extend the lifespan of the International Space Station. So the idea is if this bill would pass, that the life and operations would be extended at least to 2030. Right now, we don't have commercial space stations up. So the presence of the space station is a logistics node, an information area, and it provides contracts to different providers for resupply, crew transfers. So there's a lot of benefits to extending the ISS operation. So hopefully this will pass. And as I mentioned previously, it fared pretty well in the Senate last year, but didn't do so well in the House. NASA has gotten 5 full-scale mock-ups to study. These are mock-ups of space habitats that are full-scale size, and they're demonstrations by a bunch of companies about how they think they would design a space habitat. This could be for the Gateway, but it could also be for any other location pretty much where you would want to have a space habitat. So there's 5 companies involved. Bigelow perhaps has the longest amount of time sort of in this specific idea of a small, self-contained mini space station. Bigelow is proposing that the B330 module that they have would be their concept. Boeing's concept is based on basically space station module technology. Lockheed Martin has put forth a proposal and a prototype, of course, and theirs is based on the multipurpose logistics module. Northrop Grumman is in the mix. The Cygnus spacecraft has been used many times for space station resupply. It's a large unit, and they're designing a habitat based around the Cygnus. And Sierra Nevada has come up with something that looks a little bit Bigelow-ish, with an inflatable module being the core of the Sierra Nevada approach. That's it for Space Headlines, covering the 4th week of March 2019. We'll see you in a week or so talking about the 1st week of April, and I'll talk to you then. Take care.